Hi, and welcome to What's on the Menu. Today, our discussion is living in the community with gang members, and our panel today is Andrea Nickerson. She's a lifelong resident of Boston's historic South End. She's the mother of three beautiful children and three
inability to come to consensus about how to make a decision about it. So she just took her right to make her own decision about having the child. Now, since then, I've been involved and I've taken care of it because that's what I'm supposed to do and I wanted to do. But it has been a continuing challenge because those fundamental issues that were there that led us to make a decision not to be together continue to play a role.
We'll definitely get into that later in the discussion as well. Andrea, Gloria, I'm just curious. How did the men react once you told them of this particular situation? Did they react in a manner that you think they would once you told them that you were pregnant?
Well, I thought he was such a cool person, and I really liked him. And like I said, we were friends for years. And then when it all came out about his other life, all I could say to him was, wow, you should have had on 15 condoms. And then my next line was, well, stop putting $50 away a week because you're getting ready to be a daddy, because he had no other children. And we didn't speak for about 7-8 months.
Andrea, let me throw in another piece with that question, too, about how he reacted. Were you apprehensive about telling him at any point? I'm considering you may know how he, or whether you did know how he would react.
No, I didn't really know how he would react. I wasn't apprehensive. When I told him, he stated he didn't want another child. He had 2 older daughters, and he didn't want any more children, and that he didn't want it. That I wasn't really expecting that, but I really didn't have a plan on what to expect. So I went through it on my, I went deep down inside and, turned it over in my head and my soul and everything, and then ultimately I decided it was in me. It was meant to be. I mean,
was he harsh with his?
He was adamant.
Fighting?
He wasn't harsh. He was adamant. He didn't want, But ultimately, there's only 2 ways out. I mean, So I decided to keep the child, and I was determined to do it on my own if he didn't want, any part. And well, he was the first one to be there when he was born.
Okay, that's a good thing.
Well, there's another side there too, but
okay.
I mean, he was the first one, tucked me home with, But,
so I want to interject a couple of things to it for men out there. Just remember, when it does come down to this point of a woman sharing her body, you better make sure that you feel special, because that is her temple. So feel that you're in a special category by even getting to that point. But Kwabena,
Absolutely.
how did you feel? Were you knocked out on your feet when she told you she was having a baby, especially when you thought this was on the verge of a breakup?
I was. I really felt like it was another lesson learned about being sure about what you're doing at every moment in time. And I already knew it was going to be an issue. And so I sought counsel and tried to do my best to approach it in a rational manner. But these are really emotional issues. Mm-hmm. And I definitely, honored the fact that this was something that she felt strongly about morally. And so that we had all those considerations taken into place, but it was a shock.
Sure. I always hear this term, hearing from women all the time, they don't say anymore, I'm having a baby. They say, we. What'd they say, Jay? I'm sorry, Jay, what?
Baby.
We having a baby.
Do we speak French? We.
So if we having a baby, that means it's supposed to be a partnership. Mm-hmm. But obviously, it seems to me that women have a sense of power when it comes down to this. Ladies, how did you feel? Did you feel that you were flexing your muscle, or did you ever flex your muscle regarding this discussion?
Well, one of the things that me and Andrea discussed and we have in common, both of us were on birth control. So we were probably the most feeling out of control.
Okay.
Because we thought we had it under control. I'll let Andrea respond to your question.
It's not a feeling of power. It's a feeling of, it's a frightening feeling, a vulnerable feeling. Ultimately, maybe where that concept comes in, the word that you use, power, that a woman may feel, is the fact that ultimately it's her choice because the man's not having the baby. So maybe where that word's coming in, power, is that we are the ones who will go through with it.
Sure.
You know.
Kwame, let me ask you a question, right? So we understand that when that decision to have the baby is going to be made, one of the things that comes into a male's mind right away, because I've been in that situation myself, is you start thinking about payments, child support. I'm just curious. I'm just going to throw this out there. If the woman decides to have the baby, the man does not want to have that child, should there be some type of document that could be signed that releases the man from his financial responsibilities?
Well, there is a concept out there called financial abortion. I don't know if people have heard about that, or statutory abortion, but
Never
it is.
heard of it.
It's essentially the idea that a man can't opt out of a situation where be responsible if he does not choose to, did not want to have the child, that he can sever a financial but also emotional ties to the child and allow the woman to do what she has chosen to do in the pathway of it. So that is a concept that's out there, and it's becoming more, particularly in the feminist world, it's become more and more of an option that women are recognizing, taking responsibility for the choice that they're making, and allowing the man to also take the path that is right for him.
You know, I hear that all the time. You know, I've heard women say that they would like to, well, you know what? I don't need you, mister. I don't need you in my life. I had this child by myself. I'll do everything. I've heard it start that way. But I'm sure it's a number of times it shifts. The woman starts to feel differently. And I'm sorry, but I would have to believe that one way or another you want that man in that child's life.
Absolutely.
With all the
Absolutely.
social ills that's going on in today's society. So ladies, what do you think in regards to that type of decision from the male? Should he have, or could there be other penalties placed on him to make him be involved?
Oh, I would love that. I would love that. It broke my heart. I was married for a half hour. I had already had a child. Was raising that child primarily by myself, in school full time, working a job and a half. I would have loved to be able to penalize my youngest son's father for not being involved in his life. I contemplated, when you go into the courthouse, they have a section with all kind of pamphlets to get assistance, and can you force the father to be in the child's life? And I just couldn't imagine what that would look like, forcing a father.
so you
I
think
would have
that-
loved it, but I couldn't imagine what it would look like.
So do we think there should be some type of criminal punishment?
No.
No, because I think they'll just make the dads resentful.
That's a soulful.
Absolutely, I think
penalty.
I
You
think
have to pay for that.
you're absolutely right. I think your conscience beats at you. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Knowing
You
that
have
you
to
got
live
a
with
life
that.
out there that you're not paying attention to, or you kind of
Absolutely.
disregard. I know my conscience would absolutely.
You have
just
to
be,
live with that, but
bothering
you and
me.
the man above.
Well, you know what, too, because,
Absolutely.
Jay, I want to hear from some people that are on the line or who have responded to us, because I know this is a difficult situation for quite a few folks. What do we have on the line, Jay?
Trey, we actually got a caller right now. If we want to add that caller in, but
Before we go to
do,
caller, let's get some of the other
listen,
folks that
here we
have
go.
responded
Right
earlier.
now, listen, we have Denise, from Tampa, Florida, and she says she had a baby, and the father of the child didn't want to have it and completely stayed away, but she wants him to be involved. What's the best way to go about getting him involved? And this is open to
Panel.
the whole panel.
How do we get that man back in that child's life?
And you're saying the father does want to be involved?
Doesn't.
He
Doesn't.
He does not?
But but she wants him to be involved. How does she go about that process?
What approaches did you use to initiate that with these gentlemen?
Oh my gosh.
Usually, the family
And
of
Kwame, you can respond too now.
the family wanted to see my son. And well, with me, the first 3 years, he was involved. He was mad at me because I went ahead against what he said, but it was his only son, and all that. So he did have, he saw him and stuff. It was 3 years later, out of a new relationship, that he chose not to see my son out of her advice for 13 years. But getting back to the point of your caller, your question for the person there, you can't force somebody to be, if they really don't want to. Because if you force someone, it's not going to be a good union. It's not going to be good, and the child will feel that after a while. The child will feel that.
What about from a male perspective, Kwame?
I just
how do you
really
engage
challenge
that?
the whole narrative that most men don't want to be involved in the children. I think, I know there are cases out
No,
there,
there
but
are some.
I see so many young black men engage with their children, taking their children out on the tee, taking them out, spending time with daughters, boys, to the same. And certainly that was my experience. It's not that I did not want to be involved or have this child just, out of trying to avoid responsibility. The idea was to have an optimal family situation where we plan and we have joint values and we're able to create a life that is successful because they're being nurtured and cultivated the same way. And I think that's really where most true men really are with it. And so I really just challenge the idea that men are, I'm not saying this is not her experience, the person that called. So I really think it starts with making the choice of who you're going to be with in the first place. That that's the person who has a character that is going to want to create children in the world that have the support that they need.
You're teaching now. You're teaching folks now, huh? Optimal family situation.
Yeah,
Jay, what else we got?
so listen, we got another caller. I mean, matter of fact, it's another question, and this is actually from San Francisco. His name is Boy, Buoy, and
Boy,
and he's Asian.
Boy,
And he's Asian. Listen
My
to this.
man.
So he says, this woman is pregnant with my baby. She wants to have it. I don't. What can I do? And this is open to everybody.
Okay, what would you all think? What should that conversation be like, or is there a conversation for
There
that?
should be a conversation. He should sit down, if he hasn't already, and really go over why he doesn't want why she wants it, what could be worked out, and if he doesn't want it and she still wants to have it, how does he want to handle it then? There's really, ultimately, if she decides to go ahead and do it, there's nothing that could be done. I mean,
Would anybody else? Go ahead.
Well, my son's father and I had very calm conversations about it. He reasoned with me, explained to me that he was not prepared mentally, he was not going to be emotionally available. I mean, all these different kinds of things. And I was just like, I hear you. I just, I always wanted a sibling for my child who was now 7 or 8 years old, my older one. I couldn't hear him clearly. I had terminated a pregnancy in the past, and I wasn't willing to do it again.
Folks, if you're listening carefully here, you hear how difficult this discussion is for folks that have actually gone through it. So with that occurring, just remember, young ladies, whatever decision you make, there's consequences that come with it.
Absolutely.
And young men, there are consequences for what you do as well. Can we just take the caller, Jay? We're going to take the caller, answer that question, and we'll move on from there.
The caller. Caller, how we doing?
I'm here.
Okay, what is your question? You're live. What's your question, caller?
I didn't have a question. Tracy, this is Paul. I didn't have a question. I just wanted to share a story with everybody.
Yeah, please do.
Today.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I've had 20 years in law enforcement. I'm retired now. I went to college with Tracy. Tracy's a good friend of mine. So before I get started, I want to congratulate you and your team on your efforts to bring these type of conversations out in the open.
Absolutely.
It's not easy.
Thank you,
people
Paul.
shy away from these type of situations, these type of conversations.
Thank you, baby.
So I want to applaud you guys for having the fortitude and the blessings to bring this to the forefront.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
All right. Now, like I said, I've had 20 years in law enforcement. I'm retired. I taught domestic violence in the police academies, to the police departments, and I had a tragic event that happened in my life. And due to even though I had tons of experience with helping other people, when it happened to me, I didn't know where to turn. About 5 years ago, one of my nieces was killed by a married man who she was having an affair with, who had his own family. He was paying his own child support to other kids. They had a baby. The baby was 4 months old. And he did not, when she told him she was pregnant, he shied away from me, tried to talk her out of having the baby. And it was brought out that after he was told that she was pregnant, about 40 attempts that she had to reach him, 40 of her phone calls, were unanswered by him. So one night, on a Wednesday evening, he went over to the house. She was holding the baby, and he shot her in the back of the head.
Wow.
She died instantly. bear with me, y'all, because this is not easy to talk about.
Absolutely,
Yeah, take your
absolutely.
time.
Even though it's been 5 years, it's been some time, it still hurts. She died instantly. He shot her in the back of the head. The bullet, he shot her in the right side, back of the head. The bullet exited her left temple. So she was dead actually before she hit the ground. She dropped the baby. He stood over her, and he fired another shot into her chest. He walked out, left the baby on the floor, his baby on the floor, and they were on the floor, the baby with the body of her mother for 4 days until a Saturday. One of my sisters went by. She went by to check on her because she hadn't received any phone calls. She went into the house, and she called me, and she said, she's dead. Something happened to her. She fell out. She hit her head. The baby's on the floor. So immediately I said, get out the house and don't touch anything. Because it's being suspicious in federal investigation field that it's not. Luckily, that's what happened. Come to find out that she had been shot and killed. And the guy just went about his business as if nothing happened. They got the information on his whereabouts and his place of employment. They went and got him. We're still dealing with it. It's still rough. The baby's doing wonderful.
The baby's doing well, huh?
The baby's doing well. She's 6. One of my other nieces has adopted her, and raised her as her own. They had a trial. They convicted the guy for second-degree murder, criminal possession of a weapon. So he got like 27 and a half years to life in prison. He still tried to say that he had nothing to do with it. All evidence pointed to him. They had video of this guy entering the building with a, this was in March. He had a Jason from the movies Halloween hockey ski mask on the top of his head, a sweatshirt on. But when he left the apartment, this video picked him up with the mask on, walking out of the building.
Jeez.
No weapon has been found. He didn't admit anything. He left that person for the conviction.
Paul, let me ask you a question. What did you have any type of feelings whatsoever when she was dating that gentleman, knowing that he was married?
What was that, Tracy? Can you pick that?
Did you have did you know that she was dating a married man, and if you did, how did you feel about that? Did anybody think about trying to tell her that this may not be the right thing to do?
Well, I didn't know. Other family members did because she had shared information with them. That's how they were able to point the investigation into his direction. We didn't like it, but she wanted the baby. She had special needs, and she felt that having this baby would make her feel whole.
Sure. And Paul, I know this is emotional. Just one other question I'd like to ask you, and I love you, man. You know that, and I appreciate you for coming on the air. What could you tell anybody else that may be in a situation like this, that may be dating a certain type of person, that if you do become pregnant, how things could turn out? Of course, no one could predict anything like this. But what would you suggest telling somebody, young people, or any person about dealing with the man and the possibility of having a baby?
I would suggest that you think long and hard about this, because it's not guaranteed. And if the person he's giving you all kinds of indication that he doesn't want it, he's not going to be involved, you should take heed to that, because it's not easy raising a baby. And to do it by yourself, thinking that it's going to change once the baby's there, that this person might come around, you're only fooling yourself. And I would suggest you think long and hard. You pray on it. You listen to those people around you, man. Have a good support system.
Sure.
Because this guy, and it come to find out, all she wanted was child support.
But he didn't want his wife to know.
He was already paying child support to another kid, but his award would have been $95 a month.
Wow.
And now he's spending the rest of his life in prison, and for second-degree murder. And I just want to share something else.
Sure.
What else is difficult about this whole thing is sometimes the baby, even though she was 4 months old, she said she has dreams of her mother coming to visit her.
Wow.
One of them, she said, if I can share, one of them was, my mother came to visit me, and my niece who has custody said, well, what did she do? She said she covered me up because I was cold.
Wow.
And she told me she loved me. And so my niece said, well, what was she wearing? She said she had on a big gown and angel wings.
Wow. So, Paul,
Those kids are 4 months old, and nobody has shared the story what happened to her mom.
sure. So I want to say too, it's obvious that God is watching out for your niece and for her daughter. And I want to say, man, I love you. We're praying for you and the family, and I greatly appreciate you coming on and sharing that with us. Thank you so
Paul.
much, Paul.
Absolutely, Paul. We
It's my
love you
pleasure.
too,
Thank
baby.
you all for having me, and y'all keep doing what y'all doing.
Thank you.
And anytime you need me, Tracy, you know where I'm at.
I got you,
And then
brother.
please say hello to Gail for me.
I sure will. So, panelists, you heard that story, and we've come to a certain point where we think that it's just the woman's decision. It seems like in this particular case, this gentleman took the decision away from her at a certain point. How do we feel about that? What would you say to folks about that?
That is a freak occurrence. Most people, men get mad or whatever, but they don't kill for something like this. I've never heard of it. It's tragic.
I guess, too, with this situation, it kind of makes you feel, once again, be careful who you're dealing with.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Make sure that the decision that you make to have a child by this particular man is taken seriously. But before we move on, I'm sorry, we're behind schedule. We have to hear from Gloria Fernandez, one of our producers, and she's going to say a few words about our sponsors.
Thanks, Tracy. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Karam Zahidi from Urbanica in Boston. We have an anonymous donor. Thank you. George Kramer, an entrepreneur. Eddie Jenkins from Eddie Jenkins Law in Boston. Terrell Calloway from Calloway Graphics. Greg Cheney from Cheney Construction. Ember Greenwich from Sweet Embers. That's all in Boston. And we also want to thank our national sponsors, Better Belly from Chicago, Illinois, The Tea Shop in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, Apon Concept Productions, Miami, Florida, J. Rockwell Sound Mixing, also from Boston. Thank you, sponsors.
Let's go, sponsors. We need you.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on.
Come on.
You know, one thing is, I want to do a little self-disclosure. I kind of experienced a similar situation in Quabbin as a male. Maybe we can possibly relate to this, but I remember being in college. My girlfriend got pregnant. I could barely buy toilet paper for myself. When she told me she was pregnant, my knees buckled. It was, I was broke as it was, just coming off a basketball season. I just didn't think I was ready. It just, no matter what, it got to a point I knew it was going to happen, so I settled in and did everything that I could. What would you say to young people out there? Young males, let's not even say young people, males, period. What would you say to them? Because I've heard of situations where men become very belligerent and will just do and say the most negligent things to try to get this woman not to have that child. What would you say, Kwame?
First of all, I just want to just send out my condolences again to the family for that situation we just heard. That was really tragic. And but it does really reinforce how the life and death issues are at stake. Even though this is an extreme example, I agree that's somewhat of an extreme, but those feelings behind that action are often still at play in the situations that don't end up in murder. People are really combative, uncooperative, and the poisoning in the relationship ends up affecting the child. And I just think that's why it's so important that it be a joint decision, because women now have control of their lives after an unplanned conception, but men are routinely forced to give up control, and they're essentially giving up our reproductive rights in the situation. And that's why I think it's really important that both parties are and have these conversations ahead of time before the situation ever arises. And so a situation with the young people in particular, they ought to be part of our education system where we're sharing information about the risk and the responsibilities involved in sexual activity, so people are going into these situations informed and prepared.
I've heard and I listen, and Jay and I have talked to so many people about this particular issue. Women, I'm just curious, what are some of the reasons why women take possibly this power away from men? Some of it, I'm sure, might be love. Could some of it be also depending on how much that male makes and the possibility of being financially stable for a period of time? I'd like to hear about what your reasoning was.
My reasoning was it had none of that came into play as far as power or getting his money, because first of all, when something's not yours, you don't end up with it. I mean, not because of a kid or anything. But my reasoning behind it was, after going deep in myself and thinking over it, I wanted to keep this baby. It was a gift. I mean, not from the man. I mean, ultimately,
right, sure.
you know.
The man.
There you go, the man.
Hello. The man. And if he gave me this gift, then he's going to give me the strength and the ability to carry it through all the way. And actually, I did a good job on Father's Day. My kids will call me and say, Happy Father's Day. I mean, but it was my baby, my choice. And he came around later, but not because of anything forced on him.
So in other words, ultimately, you made a good choice because he was a good man.
If I could do it, no, I didn't say that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I said,
That was smart. Scratch it.
You didn't say that.
No.
I made if to do it all over again, I would keep the baby always, because, like I said, a child is a child, but maybe with a different person. But you never know, because in the beginning it's all hunky dory, so you really never know, until things like that come
Sure.
down. But
But does the male, Gloria, should he be placed Gloria and Quabba, in a certain category? I've had women say to me, no, you do not need to have, I've heard them say this, not to me because I'm not having their son's baby, but they'll say to me, my son is not worth a damn. You shouldn't be, he doesn't take care of his other kids. Why would you think it's going to be different having a child by him?
I've heard that before.
Well, my son's father had no children, and like I said, it was after I found out I was pregnant, he told me he was married. I really liked his personality. I did, and it was really hard for me to hurt him or cause confusion in his life, because I really did like him as a person. I did feel, wow, I was really disappointed that all those years he had lied to me when I would talk to him about things, and I think that I was really crushed. I didn't have my son in defiance of him. I think I was at a place in my life, finishing school, gainfully employed, where I thought I could do it. And it, again, like Angie said, it was a blessing. I was looking for the opportunity to have 2 children, and
Now, this discussion, if it hasn't been difficult already, let me throw another twist in this. The man and the woman have sex. The man wants to have the child, but the woman does it. Is there any difference in that, Quabba? Would there be a difference for you in that? Ladies, I'd like to hear. It's the other way around now. How does that factor into the decision here?
Unfortunately, biologically.
Oh, she didn't even hesitate. She just dived in on that one.
No, really, biologically, ultimately, it's the woman's choice. I mean, that's a known fact.
physiological.
So
But-
Rhea having a baby makes no sense.
No, she's having the baby
Okay.
physically. But if he wants it and she really doesn't want it, and again, unfortunately,
The power of a woman.
now you're talking. That's where that power comes in. But power, as far
Is
as
it the
not,
power of the
it's
woman or
her
power of
decision.
choice?
It's her choice not to. And it's a sad because
But what if
the guy wants
what if
it-
he's willing to raise the child on his own? It's just a
that would
possibility.
be
Ooh, I didn't think of that, Quabba.
That's a good one, and that would be admirable. But unfortunately, if she really wants to not have it, and that would be a sad thing for the man. It really would be. But ultimately, she does physically have that choice. I mean, that power to make that choice.
Okay. Jay, do we have any other callers or anybody that's reaching out to us?
So there's a couple of different callers that's in here. We're gonna go. This person wants to stay anonymous. This woman is pregnant. This is their question now. This woman is pregnant. I'm sure it is mine, but I don't want to have it. Am I required to sign the birth certificate?
No, he's
No.
not required.
So this is going to everybody. Is he required or
No,
he's
he's
not?
not.
No.
So hey, you're not required.
He's not required, but in certain states that she can enforce that she gets any kind of benefits, they will enforce a paternity test.
If he signs it, then a paternity, you're right, a blood test.
He doesn't have to sign it. He has to take the paternity
Right.
test if he's been accused
Right.
of being the father, and then that will determine how they act.
So it won't be physically on the birth certificate, but he'll
Okay.
be down as the daddy.
Okay. Another question we have is from Sean. Sean from Detroit, Michigan. Sean, he says, I made a mess and cheated with the love of my life and destroyed my family by cheating and having a baby. My life is in disarray. I feel guilty, and sometimes guilt eats me up. What can I do to get my life back in order?
Wow. Well, he's definitely got to make sure. So I was a little confused. Did he fool around with the love of his life or on the love of his life?
So he said, I made a mess and cheated on the love of my life.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
His woman that he
And
already-
destroyed my family by cheating and having a baby. My life is in a
Oh,
disarray.
you don't need to read the whole thing. It was just
Okay,
that one
okay,
part.
I'm sorry, Mama G. I'm sorry, Mama G.
Well,
So-
I think I've watched enough court shows that I'm possibly an expert.
Right.
But if anything, he has to continually remind the love of his life that he made a mistake and he'll make amends.
Right.
Because that's what they always say. You know, like it's not just I'm sorry and it ends right there. What counseling? What can, you know, that's a tricky question. But he needs to figure out how he's going to be involved in that child's life,
Right.
and keep this woman, the love of his life, secure in knowing that he's not going to do damage control with the other woman if something comes up by injecting his body parts in her
And
again.
don't make any more mistakes.
Right.
And you know what? And to be honest, too, if that was the love of his life, there's a possibility, young man, if you do the right thing, maybe the love of your
she'll
life
come
will
around
come
you,
back.
right.
Let me just ask one question before we ask our panelists to go into their closing statements, and please give our viewers and listeners something that they can grasp on to use. If the man doesn't want to have the child, and he lets you know, I am not doing anything financially, you're going to have to take the money out of my pocket through the courts, I will never, ever come to see your child. I am totally serious. I am not moving forward with this because I do not agree. What happens then, ladies? Do you move forward with this situation, and wouldn't that resonate with you in one way to say, I'm not sure if this is the right thing?
Of course
Well-
you say that. You go through a whole bunch of changes, but then that's the choice. You have to go inside yourself with that full knowledge and understanding and prepare to be on your own and raise that child and just be a mother. I mean,
Well, Kwabena, as a male, is it fine for a man to say that if the woman took the choice away from him, that he is not going to do anything? You might be able to take my money through the courts, but I am not coming out to do ball games, riding bikes. Is that right? Is that the right of a man to do that?
No. I feel like the core of this question has to be on what's healthy for the community. What are we trying to create? You know, a lot of the things that we are tearing around our neighborhoods now are coming from situations where people weren't taking responsibility for the children they created.
Absolutely.
I do believe, ideally, it is a right of a man to be involved in this decision. That was my position in the beginning, and I still maintain that. But the reality of it is, if things do move forward, we have to step up and look out for what's over. And that should be the woman's concern as well in the
Absolutely.
decision process about whether or not she's equipped and the situation's equipped to raise a projective child that's going to have a good life for itself as well as for the rest of the community. That should ought to be our collective concern, is around creating lives that are successful and healthy, and that conspiracy will prevent a lot of these issues from coming.
I know you all out there just love Kwabena. I love everything he's talking about. This is definitely a good black. Is he a good black man, Jay?
Good black man.
Good black man.
Yes, he
All right,
is.
let's close this up. Gloria Fernandez, leave our viewers and listeners with something they can take home from this discussion.
Me?
I think you're Gloria.
Okay, well, listen. I worked in schools, and I used to kind of tell the young girls, there's so many other things you can do with your life that you can walk away from, but it's difficult to walk away from a child. So make sure you make your decisions based on a couple of things. People will tell you who they are. They will show you. They'll tell you. You can see how they live their life. A young man may have aspirations to be the best father in the world, but if he's not in a place where he can really provide, you need to look at that clearly. And I know I have a cousin that was raised in the church, but she's a PhD and has had her own daughters, and she said, I'll have to answer to God. But if it's not right, you may have to step away and try again with somebody else.
I like that, Gloria. That was a very
That's a good one. That's a
powerful
good one,
answer.
Mama G.
Andrea, last panelist, give the viewers something to go home with.
well, ladies and men, but mainly the ladies, because it's your body and it's you're the one that's going to end up bringing this life into the world. If you can do it wholeheartedly on your own, if he doesn't want it, well, then be prepared for it. It's not an easy road. It can be very sad and painful, and there will be a lot of times when you'll feel lonely and you'll cry. But if you really, really want to have this child, then you're having the child because you want to be a mother, not because of the pretty perfect picture of a mother and father in the house and et cetera, et cetera. You want this baby. Now, things may come around. He might end up coming around, but he may not. But have the child if you're going to do that without any of those expectations. And
Kwabena, black man, tell us what you feel about this situation. Close us out for the panelists, please.
I just want to speak to any of our brothers out there who might be in the situations that we've been describing and discussing today. And I just want you to be encouraged to remove fear from out of the issue. I mean, because a lot of times that's what people are operating off of, the idea that they're not able or capable of responding to what's in front of them. And the truth is we are. An elder told me that years ago before I even had children. I got in a situation, I told him I didn't want to have children. And he reminded me, you know, from his own experience that we have, in our tradition as people, that we do honor life, and we find a way to raise people and cultivate and take care of children out of the power of our culture. You know, our family networks, our extended family, and our community that's connected together. So remove fear from the equation, move forward if that's what's in your heart to do, and trust that the resources and the capacity you need to take care of it will come to you.
I want to thank my panelists. I want to thank Kwabena, I want to thank Andrea, and I want to thank Gloria. This was a riveting discussion. This is a very difficult discussion to have.
Absolutely.
I had so many people tell me we shouldn't have had the discussion. That's why we had it. Anytime you think we're going to run from problems, it's going to help us, it's not going to work this way. So what I want to do now is bring my production team on. We call this segment of the show the dessert. You know what I mean? What's on the menu, appetizer, dessert. This is my production team that's going to now respond to you about what they thought about the panelists. Gail, talk to us. What do you think about this discussion today, and what are your feelings around this topic? That's right. Don't forget the headphones. I know you got your hair done yesterday.
To say how I continue to think about where your family might have been at that time and what went through their life and how much it changed people. So again, to you and your family, my condolences, and I pray that your niece grows to be a strong, beautiful black woman and continues to make good decisions based on the family that still surrounds her.
And Gail and I will definitely be in her life as well.
What do I think? I do think it's a joint decision to be made, because it does take two people to create these beautiful beings that are being brought into this world each and every day. I do think it does take a lot, and it does take a lot out of all of us to determine what it is we need to really do for children in the way of having children, pregnancy, and just continue to kind of think about where we are and what you see your life and your trajectory to be during your existence here on Earth, I guess. So it is a decision that may be solely on a woman. It is her body. But I do think that, again, you know, we have to have those discussions, that communication between the two people that are going to bring this child into the world. And my greatest fear is that if we end lives of children, that we certainly may be killing off that next doctor, we've heard this before, that has that cure for cancer, or that next lawyer that can bring us into a justice world, and then hoping that we can continue to do that. So I'm going along with the fact it takes both of us to make a good decision, and I pray that we will do that.
All right, we're going to hear from our other producer, Cheryl. Just want to mention, folks, her voice may sound a little different because she's from Jersey. So she may say some things straight from Jersey that we don't understand here in Boston. Cheryl?
All right, I'm just going to keep it very simple. I would suggest that both parties make an intelligent decision, because there is an innocent life to consider, and that's the child. Is the child going to be, you know, in a good environment when it is born? I mean, you're going to be able to support this child. Just be responsible for your actions and think about it before you even have the sexual act, whether it's protected or not. I mean, it can happen. Just, you know, you're having a life, and make sure you can provide for it before you create it.
Sure. You know, I want to thank the panelists. I want to thank My producers, I think this was a good show. We're talking about a lot of issues, but we are not done. We have something coming up. It's called the National Spotlight. Jay Jizzy, talk to me.
Listen, before we get going with the National Spotlight, I got to give a shout out to my homegirl Nina and Carla. They had a beautiful birthday celebration yesterday, and as you can see, it was an all-white affair. I'm still in my same clothes that I was in, but I had a ball.
He stayed at my house. He stayed at my house, so he's not going to fall into that situation.
No, I'm not. No. All right, so the National Spotlight is going to be something special. We have a celebrity photographer, Felix Natal, and so whenever it is that we get ready to go, hopefully going back into the yeah. All right.
Here we go.
Let's go. Yeah, so going back into it, the party was awesome last night, but there was something that I really wanted to say. Gentlemen, we got to start really continuing to be men.
Let's go
all
with the
right?
spotlight.
Let's go with the spotlight, baby. Of our show called the National Spotlight. It's where we highlight brands, entrepreneurs, businesses, actors, singers, you name it, we want you on the spotlight. But you have to be the best of the best. This week on the spotlight, we have celebrity photographer, the Beast of the East, Mr. Make Your Pictures Pop, Felix Natal Jr. Felix, what's up, baby? How we doing?
Good evening, my brother. How are you?
Let's get right to it, man. Let's get right to it. So, Felix, photography,
Yes, sir.
photography. Say something to our callers, man. Say how's it going? You the Beast of the East, man. You on the National Spotlight, baby.
Good evening, everybody, man. Hope everyone is blessed and feeling highly favored this evening.
Awesome. So, Felix, quick. In your line of work.
Well, first of all, I would have to disagree. I don't think it's because of the camera phones. I think it's just with the invention of digital cameras in general. I come from a film era, like where you had to know your stuff and shoot it and then develop your stuff and hope that you exposed properly and did everything, the lighting and everything correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I think now it's years. So, I've been blessed to work with so many different people, and they know my history, my body of work.
Yep.
And they know when they work with me, they're going to get something special and different, not just like anything else that anyone else could shoot.
That's why they call you the Beast of the East, baby. Yo. Because I know you've done a lot of you've done a lot of people, man. So who's
yeah. So I first, I would say probably Shaquille O'Neal, just because he was just super humble.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was expecting a whole different person.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool, real humble.
Okay.
And,
She was, not only beautiful, but easy to work with.
Absolutely. So give me one more. Who's that one more person, would you say?
And probably, I would have to say Joel Santana, just because he's my longest client since 2000. Has on set, and he just gets amazing images, and it's like you never feel like you're working.
Right.
Right. You just feel like you're hanging out with your homies.
Absolutely. So Felix, knowing the amount of time that I've known, I always wanted to ask you this other question right here. So what inspired you to get into photography?
Well, long story short, man, my mom just always loved taking pictures, and I guess I caught the hobby from her. When I was young, I just always had a camera on me. This is before me taking photography serious. People be like, man, you get some great shots, with not even having like a real camera. You take it serious. So, my mom enrolled me into a high school program by the gentleman named Jerry West, and
So Felix, let me ask you this question. I know you one of the best, you the best out there, because I know my man Dez, he's very particular with who he rocks with. So he always, whenever he's getting ready for a shoot, he's like, man, listen, for the special shoots, he goes to Felix. Now, I want to know, Felix, like, what sets you apart from other photographers in your line of work?
Well, first of all, man, you gotta just being a people person and know how to work with people and communicate with people, make people feel comfortable. My work speaks for itself. I'm into location photography. I like to get things that stand out, that pop, that are just different. I'm not like your traditional studio photographer. The few shoots that we have done together, we always went to a crazy location, something cool, different. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? So that's always been my signature. You know what I mean? So I think that's what's made me successful, and what people love about me.
So Felix, now I know you got a whole lot of things popping right now. Tell us a little bit about what is Media City all about.
Well, Media City, man, is a one-stop shop. We have everything in there, from 2 photo studios. We have a green screen studio. We have a full music studio in there. And then we have a space upstairs where I'll be teaching my tutorial classes to the kids from the inner city about anything in the fine arts.
Wow.
Photography, video, music, graphic design, web design, pretty much anything in the fine arts.
Okay. Wow. That's major right there. That's real major. So we have a lot of people listening right now, Felix. So how do our listeners get in contact with you if they want to set up a photo shoot? Or whatever it is, if they want to bring people down to the to your tutorials to just hear what it is that you do, because you are the best in the business now.
Well, they can go to the website, which is www.felixnataljr.com. They can follow me on Instagram or Facebook under Felix Natal Jr. We also have an Instagram for The Media City Studio, and the website is www.themediacitystudio.com.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, you just witnessed the best photographer in the world, because his name is Felix Natal Jr., Beast of the East. Folks, we're bringing you the best of the best here on the National Spotlight. All right? Felix, thank you so much, my brother, for rocking out with me. I appreciate you, and God bless. And anything else that you want to let our listeners know?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity, my brother. I appreciate it. I just appreciate everything, man, and you have a blessed evening.
Thank you so much, Felix. You have a good one, brother.
All right, take care.
I want to tell people, please tune into that brother's website. It is ridiculous. It is off the chain, the folks that he's worked with. Jay, you took National Spotlight to the next level. What do you want to do with it in the future, Jay? How do people reach you if they want to get on the show?
Listen, you got to get in touch with us. I'm telling you, the National Spotlight is where you are able to bring out that thing that you do. But you got to be the best of the best. As you can see, my man Felix Natal Jr., he's the best of the best. They call him the Beast of the East.
Well, I'm sure everybody thinks they're the best of the best. Can they reach out to you too?
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, you can catch me on What's on the Menu, Boston@gmail.com, or hit me up on the Facebook. Hit us up on our Facebook website, on our Instagram, What's on the Menu Boston@gmail.com.
A man and a woman have sex. The woman gets pregnant. The man doesn't want to have the child. Whose decision is it? You haven't heard what I have to say about it yet. Wow. Bottom line, young men, period. It is the woman's decision. Mm-hmm. No matter what you think might occur, what you think is going on, she has the right to make the ultimate decision. When she shares her body with you, that temple, you better treat it as though it is a temple. And then when whatever turns out from that, stand up to whatever responsibility you think you should have. Yeah, you might voice your opinion. You may say you don't want to do this, but you know what? It's the woman's decision. Young men, stand up and do the right thing. But women, there are consequences that come with that. There are consequences with you that if you make that decision by the wrong man, that you may be stuck by yourself trying to raise a child in a very tough urban environment. Jay, close us out, baby.
Hey, ladies and gents, the responsibility is to men out there is to stand up, be a man, take care of whatever it is that you have to do, and most importantly, just be a man.
We love you. Turn in next week, Sunday 3 p.m. We'll be here with another topic. I live in a community with gang members. I'm scared half to death.
Oh man, you should see the panelists we got going.
Boston Praise Radio, the voice of the church in New England. The views and opinions expressed by the following paid program are those of the program producers, and they do not reflect the views and opinion of Boston Praise Radio, its staff, or management.